It is Bollini Pinot Grigio. As all your other wines, it is also by the glass. Pinot Grigio is a very versatile grape variety. It is the same grape as Pinot Gris, if you've seen Pinot Gris from Oregon, or Pinot Gris from Alsace. It's all the same grape variety. Landed in Italy, and it became Pinot Grigio. Typically, it's a wine that, we're talking today about food and wine pairings, and Chef is going to prepare something that he thinks is going to go very well with this. But it's a wine that's a great appetizer wine. Things like calamari, oysters. And just kind of back up a little bit. When you're trying to pair wine and food, you're looking for the dominant flavor in the wine and trying to, match it to the dominant flavor in the food. For example, a bad pairing would be like Mexican food and a big, juicy Cabernet Sauvignon that has a lot of tannin in it. Because you take a bite of the Mexican food and you go try the Cabernet, you're like making out with a charcoal grill. So, something with Mexican food right there, what would be a good pairing? I think something like a Riesling, that's something that offsets the heat with a little bit of sweetness to it. And Riesling has a little bit of sweetness to it. Pinot Grigio might be a little bit too dry here, but as we get into some of the other wines, I know he's going to bring some barbecue in here, some wines that will go well with it. What kind of flavors do you guys get out of this? And there's no stupid answers, so, speak up.
Pear.
A little bit of pear, citrus.
Citrus.
So think about some of the things on your food menu that you think that it might go well with. To give you a little hint, sometimes when you're preparing a dish and you're using lemon, and I wish I had a bunch of lemons here, it would be kind of cool, but if you take a sip of the wine that has a little higher acid than maybe like your typical California Chardonnay, you take a bite of the lemon, you go back to that high acid wine and you take a sip of it, it's very, very smooth, okay? It's almost like it negates that high acid in the wine. So this part of Italy is probably the most further north as you can go. It's a blend of several different vineyard sites. Pinot Grigio still, next to Chardonnay, one of the most consumed white wines. Made popular by a famous brand called Santa Margherita, which is crazy expensive at this point. Further knowledge on the brand, it's owned by an importer, Emson, and Neil Emson started this winery, and it's completely separate from his own import license. Not that you'd ever need to know that, but just a little side story. What do you guys think of the wine? I think it's important when we're doing wine tastings, to analyze it, whether or not you like it or you don't like it. Just try to pick up the kind of flavors, the aromas you're going to get out of it. Flavor is very important, okay? Sweet, sour, bitter, salt. But if you can't smell the wine, you're missing out completely, because you get a couple hundred different kind of aromas you're going to get out of the wine, but it's just going to only enhance it when you take that first taste. Any questions? I think we've got some food coming out. What's inside the fish taco?
Apples.
Okay, so you do have some fruit in there. As you're taking a sip of the Sauvignon Blanc, especially this one, has a lot of melon kind of flavors in it, and grapefruit. It's not a high acid Sauvignon Blanc, so it'd probably go perfect with the tacos. Now, do you guys know how to properly taste wine? Listen up, guys. To properly taste wine, I'm sure some of you have done this before, and I don't mean to insult anybody, but what you want to do is initially you want to take the glass, hold it up to your nose without swirling it, get that initial aroma, okay? And then swirl the glass so it aerates the inside of the glass, and you take a sniff again, and you're getting more of the nuances of that particular wine. Then you take a sip,
grass.
Yeah, they would describe Sauvignon Blancs as sometimes being grassy. But do you get grapefruit? Do you smell grapefruit?
This is grapefruit. This is
Right, like a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc is like pink grapefruit. Yeah.
This is it's a jalapeno. Big difference.
Somebody said jalapeno. You said it the last time we did this, right? Yeah.
This is the same one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There is, I think, a very pleasant herbal quality to this.
Everyone acts like crazy when I say that.
That is the Darcie Kent Sauvignon Blanc.
Yes.
I want a little side note on this particular wine. Darcie Kent is only sold to restaurants, which I found funny because in the bottom of the thing it said, average retail price. We cannot sell this wine to stores. Darcie Kent is a person. She's an artist. Her husband works for the wine group. They created this brand. All the wines are single vineyards. This is mostly Sauvignon Blanc, and they blend a little bit of a Austrian grape called Gruner Veltliner into it. Kind of soften it up a little bit. So there was definitely some info right there on this on the fact sheet. What's that?
So I'd pair this with the nachos.
You pair this with the nachos, the jalapeno? Yeah.
And now that I do,
You could probably do it. So, in one of your signature drinks, the white sangria. So I think that's pretty cool. Typically, when people make sangrias, usually it's wine you to throw away or like Riuniti or something like that. It's usually junk wine. But Mike over here wants a quality wine is white sangria, so it's going to be that much better.
If you had a guess or a calamari, how would you suggest selling this wine to go with calamari?
Everybody in this room here knows 90% more than the average customer is going to sit down. People either they do one or two things. They'll go and order their favorite brand, sit down. I want a glass of Kendall Jack Chard because that's what I drink all the time. But if you just happen to mention it to the customer, to sit down and go, you know what, we have an awesome Pinot Grigio that we tried the other day with a wine guy, and we paired it with the calamari. It was really, really good. Just the act of just saying that, people are gonna try it. They're interested. Wine is a pretty strong flavored wine, so I think it'll come straight through. We're going to go to really the atypical California Chardonnay, and this is by Simi. Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, which we'll have next, they tend to do better in cooler climates. So this one is from the Russian River that is right along the Sonoma coast. All right, so that's right along the Sonoma coast. Other areas that are really good for, the cooler areas that are really good for Chardonnay would be like Central Coast. So Pinot Noir and Chardonnay like cooler weather. The regular Simi Sonoma Chardonnay comes from a blend of about 40 different vineyards. The reserve Chardonnay is all located on the Russian River Valley, so it's closer to the coast, cooler. Another point of difference here is it's 100% barrel fermented. What they do with this, okay, is they crush the grapes, they put the must, which is all the liquid, and they let it sit with the skins. They put it in the barrel and they let it ferment there. And what fermentation happens, you're converting all the sugars in the grapes, right? Converting all the sugars into the grapes into alcohol. So it does it all in this barrel. So it's going to be, you're going to get definitely some oaky flavors here. 25% of the cuvee goes into new French oak barrels. These guys at Simi, they've been around since the mid-1800s. Simi was the surname of an Italian grandmother that started this winery. It's gone through a couple of different hands. The current winemaker, I believe his name is Steve Reedy. He does a lot of different projects. He's doing a project right now with Dave Matthews. They have a wine brand called Dreaming Tree. But this right here is probably the biggest expression of his Chardonnay. Not for the faint of heart. Oh yeah, this is I mean, it's been a pendulum with people drinking wine right now, as far as Chardonnay. It's still the number one asked for wine in restaurants throughout America. And for a long time, people wanted to get away from that really heavy, oaky Chardonnay, but when you order a reserve Chardonnay, don't you want it to have a little bit of oak, you know? I would say this would not go well with oysters, unless you put a ton of, lemon on it or something like that. It's too delicate of a flavor food. This is a big style wine. So you guys talk to me. What do you think? What kind of flavors are you getting out of this, out of the wine?
Definitely oaky. What about like mussels?
Depending on how the mussels are made, you got to think that when you're thinking of the food. You could have a Pinot Grigio. You could say, "Oh, it goes great with oysters." Well, what if they're like oysters Rockefeller? There's different flavors in that dish. But so beyond the oak, we know it's oaky. What other kind of flavors are you getting? What kind of fruit flavors do you taste here?
I taste vanilla. That's not a fruit, I know that.
Vanilla comes from the new oak barrels. There's vanillins inside wood. So when you age wine in new oak, you're going to get those flavors. But beyond that, you're going to get pear. Do you guys get pear? Any other kind of fruit?
Apple.
Apple? Anything else? Is there a nice finish to it? So, does it work with the dish? Does it work with the salad? And going backwards, did the Sauvignon Blanc work with the fish tacos?
They have
But this definitely sees some new French oak, and it's very well balanced. I mean, you get the fruit, you get the oak, you get the acidity. It's very pleasant.